What makes Tywin the worst of the worst is the fact that he manages to make all of these horrible things a reality while being the true king of Westeros. And at this end, who was Tywin Lannister? He was a man born into the richest house in all of Westeros, a stern boy, born with a silver spoon in his mouth, and the promise of inheriting the great power of a noble house in the future. Unfortunately for Tywin, he was born the first son to possibly the weakest Lannister ever to helm the house, and he spent his youth languishing in the light of his father's constant missteps. Over the course of his life, Tywin would prove himself to be a hyper-intelligent, austere, and ruthless man who, more than anyone else in his lifetime, decided the course of history in Westeros, making himself a part of nearly every conflict, event, and misfortune that occurred during this time, guiding the realm towards enriching and empowering his own house, no matter the cost to others. All of this he accomplished through his own commanding presence and ironclad will, a man so dead set on reaching his goals that nothing else in the world mattered, a man who shaped himself into the embodiment of ambition and determination. In the beginning of this video, I made the claim that Tywin stands tall above all the other evildoers in this story, and everything we've discussed so far about him has a part to play in that distinction. But there are two things in particular that solidify this notion. The first is that many of the monsters you see in this story, like Joffrey Baratheon, Walder Frey, Roose Bolton, Ramsay Bolton, the Mountain, Amory Lorch, and Vargo Hoat, are all able to commit many of the horrendous acts they commit because they're directly backed by the one man who can give them the power to act on their violent impulses, Tywin Lannister. Sure, they all have the ability to do what they please to a certain extent without Tywin backing them, but that's nothing compared to what they do after they're given the blessing of the Lion Lord. Tywin is the master of monsters, the god of suffering, the man who orders men to put entire villages, cities, and acres of land to the torch. That alone should be enough to give Tywin the distinction of being the primeval in this story. But what makes Tywin the worst of the worst is the fact that he manages to make all of these horrible things a reality while being the true king of Westeros. He's the puppet master, the tactician, the financier, the man with the plan who can mold all existing power structures into an extension of his will. There were some lulls in his power, but for nearly his entire life, Tywin Lannister was the true power in Westeros. Figurehead kings were manipulated, the opposition was destroyed, and the realm bled profusely for the power of Tywin and House Lannister. I ask you, what is more terrifying than a man who's willing to lie, cheat, manipulate, kill, and destroy just for the sake of his own power and the power of his family? But standing behind all of them to allow their brutal power to flourish is the true king. And a true king doesn't need to show his brutality personally.